Immigrants come to the U.S. through transparent legal tracks as well as undocumented avenues. They arrive for voluntary reasons like seeking opportunity and employment, and for involuntary reasons like escaping violence or famine. The top 5 documented reasons for immigration are work, family, school, safety, and diversity. Immigrants come with a wide variety of skills and contribute to their communities in vast ways. They also bring different forms of cultural capital with them, including aspirational, linguistic, familial, social, navigational, and resistance capital. In order to function properly, a U.S. immigration system needs to be able to effectively distinguish between 2 groups, undocumented immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers, and treat these 2 populations differently.
The United States has always been a country of immigrants, though immigrants have not always been welcomed with open arms. The first immigration law in the United States was the Naturalization Act of 1790, which specified that any free white person of good character who lived in the U.S. for 2 years or longer could be admitted as a citizen, as well as their children. In 1815, a first wave of Irish immigrants arrived, many of them sick and dying from their long voyage across the Atlantic. After a full generation of discrimination and hatred, the Irish were generally accepted as American citizens, and anti-immigrant sentiment shifted to other minority groups, including the Chinese. In 1892, Ellis Island opened, a site that would admit over 12 million immigrants over the next 30 years. As more and more immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe immigrated to the United States, pressure once again mounted to limit the number of foreigners entering the country. This new wave of anti-immigrant sentiment resulted in the Immigration Acts of 1921 and 1924, which favored immigrants from Northern and Western Europe over other groups. By the 1940s and 1950s, these immigration laws were eased, and in 1965, the Immigration and Nationality Act was passed, which created a 7-category preference system that gives priority to relatives and children of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents, professionals and other individuals with specialized skills, as well as refugees. Starting in the 1980s, tens of millions of immigrants, both documented and undocumented, began arriving in the U.S. from Central and South America, leading to another wave of anti-immigrant sentiment. In 2001, a bipartisan group of U.S. senators attempted to pass the DREAM Act, which would have granted temporary residency and right to work status to qualifying immigrants who entered the United States as minors, as well as a path to permanent residency and then citizenship. This legislation was routinely rejected by lawmakers, leading to the creation of Daca, a scaled-back immigration policy created by the Obama administration that allowed individuals who were brought to the U.S. as children to receive a renewable period of deferred action from deportation and eligibility for a work permit in the United States. In 2017, the Daca initiative was rescinded by the Trump administration. That same year, the Trump administration imposed a new travel ban on certain predominantly Muslim countries identified as presenting heightened concerns about terrorism and travel to the United States. The travel ban was contested and ultimately went to the Supreme Court, which ruled in favor of the ban in a 5-4 vote. All in all, immigration is an important, often complicated part of America's history that affects us all in some way or another. Though highly politicized at times, it is a widely accepted practice.
Under federal law, all children regardless of immigration status, have the right to equal access to public education at the elementary and high school level. In 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court in Plyer v. Doe issued a decision that dictated all immigrant children have just as much right to a free public education as U.S. citizen children. Despite this decision, undocumented children still face some challenges in receiving an appropriate education today. Some states require proof of residency, Social Security, custody papers, among others for enrollment. Another challenge is the language barrier. In 1974, the Supreme Court in the Lau v. Nichols case issued a law to provide English instruction to all immigrant children. Failure to do this will prohibit children from having access to public education, which violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Though federal precedent is firmly set, there is still a great need for local schools and state governments to promote educational success for all immigrant children.
Social-emotional development represents a specific area of child development, as it includes the process of how a child acquires and manages their own emotions as well as create meaningful relationships with others. In regards to students that are English speakers of other languages, the development of social-emotional needs can look different, as English learners, or ELs, are at a higher risk than their general education peers for social-emotional problems. There are a few reasons for this, such as ELs don't yet have the English language and vocabulary skills to express concerns or problems. Some do not initiate social interactions with teachers and peers and can often feel cut off. As a result, this may keep ELs from forming bonds and relationships with their teachers and classmates and from becoming members of their classroom and school communities. ELs may also have low self-esteem because they haven't made friends or are unable to participate in academic learning of the class. In order to best meet the needs of ELs and aid in their social-emotional, there are a few strategies teachers can implement in their own classrooms and teaching practices. These strategies include directly teaching skills that allow ELs to manage stressful situations. Promote social-emotional learning for ELs' social skills by using children's literature. Teach social skills that are valued by the EL's family. Involve parents in reinforcing these skills at home. Help ELs develop self-esteem by supporting their academic progress. Scaffold content information so that ELs can feel successful in school. Teach ELs positive self-talk so that they can better manage their feelings. Our primary goal as educators is to provide English language learners with strong support systems that set them up for success in all facets of life.